Another thing people talk about is the fact that you're often quite confused. Do you see that? Everyone goes on about that.
I didn't know,
Yeah.
but I've become a moving meme that everyone likes to post a video of me.
Moving me.
Always confused. And do you know what? You lived up
Looking
to...
Like I'm in a press conference staring at nothing. Suddenly I'm asked a question and I'm like,
You lived...
Carlos doing an impression of Carlos Confused is my favourite thing.
Hello, welcome back to the Fast and the Curious, the Formula One podcast that likes to take you inside this mad sport. We also like to get on some of the biggest names, which is what we're doing today, Christian Hugill.
Oh, it is what we're doing today, Betty Glover. For a second episode in a row, we are here at Silverstone, the home of British motorsport. This is Betty Glover. My name is Christian Hugill. Greg James is our team principal. He's normally with us and was with us on our last episode at McLaren, where we spoke to Lando Norris and, of course, our pod favourite, Oscar Piastri. That was on the last episode. Today, we are focusing on a different team, and you might be able to spot who.
Don't know if you can read that, but Williams Racing. So we've got loads of guests coming on this podcast, including Jenson Button. We've also got Alex Albon and the big name that everyone has been wanting us to interview. It's been our most requested driver.
Comfortably.
Yeah.
Carlos Sainz is finally going to be on the Fast and the Curious. It's happened. I'm bobbing, not just because I'm excited.
But it is very cold.
Oh, it's so cold. It's colder than it was on the last episode, trust me. Yeah, Jenson Button on the way, Alex Albon on the way, Carlos Sainz on the way. And 3 years ago, Betty, can you believe it? Jenson was the first Formula One driver voice on the podcast. Or was he technically?
No, Alex Albon was the first voice on the podcast.
But he'd lost his voice. He was croaky. He could barely talk. I am told he is in fine voice today. Shall we go and find out?
Yeah, let's go. And also, let's get warm because it is so cold. Alex.
hello.
This is where, well, you
Look at this
think
live podcast. Have I done this before?
Yes, loads
What,
of
this
times.
podcast?
Yeah, I know that, but live. Like,
Oh, in person?
In person.
Yeah.
Yes, you have.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, it's all right.
Anyway, Alex, you think we're doing a podcast, but this is actually where the truck starts moving and we kidnap you.
Good.
So...
Well, if we go 50-50 with the ransom, then I'm happy.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
Okay, we can do that, can't we?
It does look like we're in a bit of an underground bunker.
So do you know where we are? So to
explain where we are.
Basically, this is obviously a parts truck, but recently we've been just, especially for events like this, we will have the car pretty much already done. So it's almost just comes out ready to go. So
the car was in here?
The car was in here, yeah. So I think if
Oh.
you, most likely the space we're in, if you imagine it's actually the right size for an F1 car.
Yeah, it is.
So it's likely here is where the car was. Good, isn't it?
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And we've turned it into a makeshift podcast studio, which if you're not watching
Yeah.
on YouTube...
Imagine we finished today and we can't fit the car in, and it's because you guys have moved stuff around.
Yeah, it's because we've
that would
actually
be
messed it
Yeah.
up.
We did help a man get some diesel out the back of the truck before he came
You
in.
did?
We did, yeah. I actually helped him lift it out and everything. So when you win the Constructors' World Championship, I'd like a small credit.
Yeah, it's because of you.
Unbelievable.
There's
Yeah.
also a big roll of something up there and it says your name on it in massive letters. So I don't know what it is.
Oh, it's a big
but-
poster thing.
Oh yeah,
Should we get it out? No.
that, you know what? That's for the the garage flooring to have the name. Yeah.
Alex, I'd like to start the interview with something we found out this morning. So we're obviously here at Williams Media Day.
Yes.
They've just launched the car.
Yes.
Alex was interviewed by Steve Jones from Channel 4, who's a friend of the podcast and
Okay.
on the pod.
I thought it would be a rival.
Oh, no.
no,
We're very,
we
Steve's
like
a
Steve.
wonderful man. We love Steve
We
Jones.
love Steve.
Who do you hate?
Oh, great question.
Who-
I'll tell you off air. But Steve got some information out of you, which I'd like to start with and discuss a little bit
Please.
more. I think it's what Steve would want. You sleep
It's what
naked.
the nation would want, actually.
It's what the nation would want. You sleep naked,
this
apparently.
seems a bit far-fetched because it was either pajamas or naked. You can be in between. You can be in boxers.
Well, I do boxers and a t-shirt. Don't know about you.
Boxers and a t-shirt. That's a bit weird.
It is a bit
Yeah,
weird.
that's
A lot of
really
people-
strange,
a lot of people
actually.
say it's weird.
I bet you wear socks as well.
No, I don't. No.
I can't.
You can't wear
Just-
socks?
No, shirt.
So just boxers?
Just boxers. Yeah.
Oh, so right. Okay, because, yes.
So that's not naked, though.
If for whatever reason push comes to shove, if I have to sleep naked, I will sleep naked.
Yes.
but it's not my first choice.
We should just say, we
Okay,
should just give
well-
some wider context to this. You and your new teammate were playing Mr. and Mr.
Yes,
With Steve.
as you
and
do, as you do on a normal launch.
On a normal
Launch day,
launch.
yeah.
But because it's Valentine's Day,
Yeah, we're recording this on
Apparently.
Valentine's Day.
Yes.
Happy
So-
Valentine's Day, by the way.
yeah, thank you very much. Is it thank you? Do you say
I
thank you
don't
to
know.
Yeah. I don't really know.
Happy Valentine's Day to yourself?
Valentine's Day with Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz. Hey,
I mean,
plenty
I'll take
worse
that.
people.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Great.
How is things with Carlos Sainz?
Good. We don't know each other so well. We've raced against each other since we were. Well, I was. Hang on, let me think of the year. 2009. So we throw it back. But we were never teammates or never racing against each other apart from 2009
Right.
until I got to F1. He kind of got through the categories a bit quicker than I did. So here we are.
Here you are. Match made in heaven, is it?
I guess yes. Yeah, it feels good. It feels cozy. Yeah, nothing to say really. You need to ask me in like 6 months' time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then you
And
can
then I'll
dish
tell
the
you-
dirt
yeah, then
a
I'm like-
bit.
Unlivable.
I'd heard rumours that you lived next door to each other at one point.
We did.
Why?
Directly next to each other. Not just like people say neighbours. We were
On top of each
neighbours.
other. Yeah.
Yes. So my room was here. Let's say, but it's not very good podcast.
Well, it's on YouTube
Voices.
as well.
Okay.
It's a good plug for the YouTube channel.
My door was directly opposite his door.
Why? Why were you doing
Because
this?
there is not that much apartment
Is this in Monaco?
options in Monaco.
Yeah,
Right.
sure.
And if you want somewhere that, because Monaco is quite an old city,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and if you want something a bit newer, a bit fresher, it narrows your options even more so. And so I've been there. I was the OG. I was there from day one.
And he moved in next to you.
He moved in next to me, so
Right.
maybe he just wanted to be near me.
And what was he like as a neighbour?
Fine. I didn't really see him that much. A couple of times passed him in the elevator. He was obviously he was Ferrari back then. This was pre Williams. He's moved now, by the way. He's gone. He's gone on to bigger, better things.
And are you still there?
I'm still there.
Did you help him move?
No.
No.
But it's just little things like I know what his delivery order is like.
Oh.
Tell us. What does Carlos Sainz deliver?
Well, everything
Pasta.
really. Yeah, but more sushi. I would say.
Oh.
I can't even remember now. Maybe I'm putting. He's gonna ask you that. No, I don't eat that. But he does like. I know he likes caviar.
Of course he does. Yeah. Of course he does.
Gonna put him on the spot there, but
Sushi, caviar.
and definitely pasta. I think his girlfriend cooks good food, so he says.
Okay.
So maybe less takeout than
Great
nowadays. Anyway, this is a proper rant.
No, it's
no
interesting
one
though.
cares about where we
Oh
live.
no, they do.
I think you'll
You're one of our
fine.
favourites on this podcast, Alex, because we
Thanks.
don't ever spend much time talking about Formula One. We
True.
go off on tangents about animals, about...
Good.
What should we? But let's actually talk about Formula One then.
Please.
We've gone on the biggest tangent I think known to man. But how are you feeling about this season? Because we've seen the old car over
Yeah,
there.
looks good.
Yeah, you happy with it?
Yes, I would say that. Honestly, if you look at the skeleton of the car, it looks quite similar. Actually, no. Look at the skin of the car; it looks quite similar.
Ooh.
But the skeleton's different.
Oh, in what way?
Just subtle things, a lot of packaging things, a lot of call it refinements to the car. There isn't much parts of this car that's carryover from last year, so it's all been optimized. Let's say we made a big change to our car last year, and it definitely improved most areas, but it did expose and create some weaknesses. And so this year's for this year's car, there's been a lot of focus on them weaknesses. I think you're going to hear it from every team, but there's a huge focus into next year's change of regulation. And so there's some things that we want to get right on this year's car, so we know going into next year's, as we make next year's car, well, most teams are already starting it.
Yeah.
We know exactly what kind of car we want to make. Something that also for the drivers that we can build on, have confidence with, and whatnot. So
One thing I've always thought is really clever with James Vowell's approach since he's come into the team is saying, I'm looking really long term. And it's almost like we were talking about football before we started. When football managers want to play a certain way, but they all are conscious they need to get some results soon, otherwise they'll get sacked. Not saying James is going to get sacked, but I think it's really intelligent going, right, we are focusing on long term. And even in this morning's launch event, they were saying, listen, the focus is on 26 and beyond to make sure Williams can win races and challenge for titles again long term. So with all of that said, given we're previewing the 2025 season, what's doable this season, bearing in mind Williams are focusing long term?
Yeah, it's very true. It's more about just maximising this year, of course, for everyone, for the team, for ourselves. Even if you take it in terms of a financial point of view, it benefits everyone to have a good year this year and bring it into next year. And I think realistically, it's trying to make putting the foundations in place. We've done a lot of work back at the factory, changing procedures, and it's been documented a million times around the Excel sheets and whatnot, and making everything mainstream and current and modern. And on top of that, going towards the future, because at the end of the day, I think that I'm going straight away. I'm almost ignoring your question, going straight into 2026.
No, you do what you like.
But in the end, the top teams, even if they don't start the year perfectly strong, they always are able to bounce back. They can always do that kind of thing. And so you need the fundamentals, the pyramid, to be built from the very bottom. And so there's a lot of that going on. And I give an example like Red Bull with this current generation of car. If you look at the way they started.
They roared out the blocks.
Yeah.
They roared out the blocks, and it's taken till what we're hoping this year. McLaren finally caught them up towards the end of the year. But that's they've had a 3-year head start on everyone. And so that's why it's so important when people think, why do teams keep talking about 2026? That's why it's so important.
Because of the big rule changes, the regulation switches, new engines, new cars.
And if you're behind on year one, unless you're a top team, it's really hard to get back.
Is it frustrating for you, sort of racing, like, because you've talked about how Red Bull were like almost 3 years ahead and so dominant out the blocks last season.
Yes.
Is that frustrating for you as a driver to sort of be a part of?
Maybe if you're like McLaren or Ferrari or Red Bull or Mercedes, yes. But with us, our fight feels very different to theirs. It feels like, okay, where are we? Where do we need to improve? It is always been long term. I think that's why you see I've signed a long term contract. Carlos has. The partners that we've have come in, everyone sees the vision of it. And so, yes, to answer your question, of course, in the moment, you don't want to be fighting for P11, P12, and the odd point here obviously is great, but we want to be fighting for podiums. We want to be fighting for race wins, and the simple answer is to do that, you need to sacrifice a little bit early on. So that's what we're doing.
Again, speaking a bit more long term, but you've got a long term contract. You've been phenomenal since you've been at Williams. Carlos has got this long term contract. You've mentioned partners coming in, like teams will notice. At Lassen, there's a title sponsor, which a lot of fans won't know the significance of because, it's a big cash injection to the team. It's a title sponsor, all of that. Mercedes engines and all the rumours about Mercedes for the new engine regulations seem really strong. Yep. It does feel like a team that can, this whole thing of winning races, getting back towards the podium, it feels realistic to me. It must do to you as well.
It does, and that's why I signed. That's why Carlos signed. So it's good. Vibes are good.
Vibes are good.
Vibes are good. Williams, vibes are good. Vibes are good at Last Year Racing. There we go.
Oh, well, you've managed to plug it. So going into this season then, not talking about 2026, but just focusing on this one, what's a good season for you, do you reckon?
Interesting question. I would say... I'm going to give you the most boring answers.
No, don't.
And they are
give us a good answer.
No, but they are... Okay, fine.
All right, then.
I don't know. I would say... it's so kind of like...
It's a hard question.
It's a hard question because, of course, being too result-based is a dumb answer because in the end it moves around and it's very... Not materialistic, but it feels that way. As in... Who's to say? Of course, my dream would be I want to score a podium this year. It's not really a
realistic.
it can happen, but it's not a nice goal to have. I would say for us, it's I don't know. I honestly think if we can finish this season and feel that we've really got on top of a lot of the issues that we had last year. So, the parts, the overweight side of things, the quality control areas. There's a few big things that we've really put a lot of effort into this year. That's to me what a good year is. So yeah.
You've got to go. Just really quickly before you do, we always ask you every time you're on, how's the animal collection at Albon HQ?
You want the good story or the bad story?
Good story.
No, bad story first,
Bad story.
then good story.
Quick story. One of them has cancer.
Oh, which one?
Lucky.
That's not very lucky.
What a dog is? What is a dog?
White cat.
White cat. Oh, we wish Lucky all the best. That's really sad.
Yeah, not so lucky at the moment.
No, evidently not. No.
And then
God.
So the good news, end on a high.
end on the high. They're still the same amount.
Right, okay, it wasn't quite as much of a high as we were hoping for. None of them have died. And on that bombshell, Alex Albon, thank you.
Can you bring us Jenson Button?
Jenson Button's next. Can you find Jenson for us?
Is he here?
He's somewhere around. Alex Albon making his first Fast and Curious appearance of the season, and very soon he'll be driving that, which we can hear getting started behind us. That's Carlos at the moment. The starting noise of a Formula One car for the first time of Williams' season. It's exciting.
It sounds so good. And also, you can never get used to that sound. It is so loud. Even when you're in a truck that is so thick and concealed, you can still hear it because it's a ridiculous sound, isn't it?
Those trucks are thick and concealed, like my good self. Now, one person who's been around Formula One for a little while now is Jenson Button. Betty, it blew my mind when we recorded our first ever episode of the podcast at Silverstone for the Williams Shakedown. Jenson was there, and I was like, oh my God, it's Jenson Button. Because I always get asked, who's your favourite driver? I don't have one nowadays, but back in the day, it was Jenson Button.
Well, do you know what? You've brought your little cap along with you, so maybe you can go and get that signed.
I have bought some of my old merch. Reckon he'll sign it for me?
Oh, yeah.
We'll have a go. Let's go speak to Jenson Button.
Jenson, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you.
You okay?
I'm good. I'm loving these handhelds.
Everyone is commenting
These
on
are
them.
so cool. It's like balanced really well.
In the last couple of days at Silverstone, Lando Norris, Alex Albon and now Jenson Button have all picked up our Fast and Curious handheld on-the-go podcasting kit and gone, this is cool.
Yeah, this is fancy.
It's nice in your hands, isn't it? Like quite squidgy.
Because it looks like it's going to be really badly balanced, but it's actually balanced really well.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
That's such
The
like a sort of geeky motor driver thing to say, isn't it?
Motor driver.
Motor driver.
Exactly.
Motor driver. That is you in a nutshell.
Famous motor driver, Jenson Button.
Famous motor driver.
Yes. It does sound like we're in the 50s.
It does, doesn't it? Motor driver.
Motor driver.
Yes.
Jenson, Williams have done their fancy launch, which was fantastic this morning. You, for those that don't know, are a bit of a Williams ambassador. You represent Williams and talk about their future, but of course, you're a part of their past as well. The year 2000, you made your debut with this team.
Yes.
You're celebrating 25 years involved in Formula One, right? From young driver to ambassador nowadays. How do you feel about 25 years in F1?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't in F1 for 25 years racing.
But you've been in and around.
But I've been in and around it for 25 years. And 25 years since I was officially a racing driver in F1 is crazy, right? Makes you feel very old, but great memories, such good memories. You know, this team has given so many youngsters the chance in F1. I was 19 when they signed me to race in Formula One, and the best bit was they announced me. For example, if now was 25 years ago, I would have been announced 30 minutes ago. So they announced me like 30 minutes before I drove the car and was announced to the world. And I remember walking to Frank's office and he said, Jenson, we've decided to go with you alongside Ralf Schumacher. And obviously, like, I was like going nuts and ran outside, saw my dad, gave him a hug, called my mum. And then it was basically straight into press conference.
Wow.
We'd already done the team photo shoot with me and with the other driver that could have got the drive. Separately, so it was kind of weird.
You were in a bit of a shootout back then, weren't you? With
it was a
driver?
shootout, with Bruno Genquera. So, and that was it. And now you're a Formula One driver, and within at 1 second, my life changed from being a racing driver to being an F1 driver.
But I remember this so vividly as a kid because I wanted the new exciting rookie to come in, and then you got the drive, and I genuinely think it's part of what made me really fall in love with the sport of like, there's new exciting British driver with Williams, and I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning to watch the Australian Grand Prix because new exciting British driver, and the rest, as they say, is history.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, but now look at you now. Here, loving your life.
I am loving my
thriving.
life. Yeah.
Thriving.
What? Let's talk about Williams
Yes.
this season, though, because we've just spoken to Alex Albon, and he kept sort of talking about 2026 and sort of skirting over this season. But what are you expecting from Williams this season?
It is a funny one, isn't it? Because I don't think any teams really that unless they've got a winning car really want to talk about the performance, and that's kind of understandable. They've got all these amazing sponsors and partners, and they're hoping for good results, but it's always looking forward to the future. This is a team that's been building over the last few years in terms of building the team with the right people, having the right technology within the team so they can develop the car into a winning car. But it takes time. So 26 is a massive year for most of the teams that aren't winning in 2025. But still, I think this is a great stepping stone year for them. And they had a few issues with sensitivities in the way that the car worked with downforce. So
Does that mean the car was a bit of a diva effectively at times?
So yeah, I mean the peak downforce level would have been very good on the car, but and then we say usable downforce, which is what you can actually use.
Yeah.
Because when it's usable, it gives you confidence in the drive, and you can find the limits a lot easier. It's not just going to snap you and put you in the barrier backwards. So I think that's the area they've really worked on. It's the high downforce, the high-speed corners, and also that stability getting into the low-speed corners. So it's funny because it might say, I'm just picking this out of thin air, it could say it's 3 or 4 tenths quicker with that update. But if that update gives a driver confidence, it could double that in lap time. So who knows where they're going to stand, but I think if they have that confidence in the car, they can really build on that, and we'll see that throughout the season from these two fantastic drivers that we have here at
What a
Williams
lineup.
now. Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon. I mean, what?
That is a brilliant lineup, though.
I
And
know.
we love Alex, and we've followed him since we started this podcast. We think he's brilliant. But adding Carlos to that mix, who has proven that he is a fantastic driver, that's excellent, isn't it?
Yeah, I think he's got a bit of a shock coming to Silverstone, though, in February to launch
He looks
the car.
cold.
Bit cold.
Yeah, a lot less pasta in his belly probably than he's used to as well. But that might not be might not be a bad thing.
No.
But no, it's a great lineup, and from what Carlos has said and the team said, they've just been downloading him
Really?
over the last few months
What does
from
that
his
mean?
experience from the last just trying to take all of his experience of working with McLaren, working with Ferrari over the last few years, because it's always interesting to know how teams went about their business. And he's a driver, so he's gonna know a lot, but he's not gonna know everything that the team are doing. He's not an engineer, but they can download him as much as they can for understanding the way that they go racing. So it's been really useful for the team, and I think Carlos likes it as well, that they're really listening to him, and that's so important for a driver, to know that the team are interested in what you have to say and that you're involved with that development, which obviously Alex has been doing over the last few years. Now he's got this experienced teammate coming in so they can work together. It's been great, and they were on stage last night with all the partners and sponsors doing an interview, and the atmosphere is great. It always is at the start of the season anyway, because they haven't started racing. But it was really nice to see the rapport between the two of them, before we get into the season. When they're head-to-head, we'll see what happens. But I think they've both got a good head on their shoulders, that there's enough respect there, which is good.
Can we do a bit of Fast and Curious admin now we've spoken about Williams? Because I don't know if you remember this, but 3 years ago, on this very sort of Shakedown Media Day bit, you were the first guest we had on the Fast and the Curious. We hadn't booked that in. We stumbled across you. Me, Betty and Greg found you, and we had a chat to you.
Do you remember that?
I'm still waiting for my cut. My
Where
percentage
Greg's
from-
invoicing is very slow, and he
Yeah.
apologises for that. So that's on the way. But we've then seen each other a couple of times since. And the last time I saw you was in Miami with Bex, who's at the back of the room here from Williams. And Bex told you that I was a Jenson Button fan as a kid. And when I was karting, I had a Jenson Button cap that I used to wear. I've never really had a favourite driver in F1 until Jenson Button. I might as well be open with this, right? Might as well be honest. And you said to me off air, and I always want to say this on air, you said, oh, and I always thought you were cool. And I'm not, Jenson. Not at all.
no one's ever said that to him before. So.
No one's ever said, I'm not cool. So I thought I'd lean into this. That cap I wore throughout my entire karting and kid journey, I've got the cap. Would you mind signing my cap for me? I'm going to lean into not being cool because...
That was the longest link to get a cap signed I've ever heard.
I had this on my head for years.
That's amazing. Look at that.
This was the like my entire childhood. I wore this cap.
Oh, you're going right.
I've washed it. Yeah, Jimmy says. Yeah, I gave it a bit of look at that. It's come full circle for me now, and I got a smiley face and everything. Thank you.
That is my favourite cap from your collection by a long way. Though.
It used to live in the Fast and the Curious studio.
That's so sweet.
There you go.
Nice.
Come full circle for me.
I don't want to burst your bubble, but I can't remember ever saying you were cool.
No.
Well, you said you thought I was cool before finding out I had all the Jenson Button merch, and then you were like, "Oh, you're a geek." And
okay.
That's true.
Cool.
I
love geeks.
Yeah, I'm not
it's
a cool
favourite
person. Thank you.
I'm a geek.
We also did a
we
quiz
can
on
tell.
that first episode, didn't we, Betty?
Yes, we did. So I don't know if you remember this.
Was
but
I really bad?
No. You were quizzing Christian because we said, look, Christian's our sort of like our resident Formula One geek, but we need to test his credentials to, see if that's actually his title. So you quizzed him.
You gave me an impromptu quiz.
He got the answers correct way back when. So we were wondering whether you want to quiz him again, just to, reaffirm that. Is he still, on the top of his game?
And if not, if I get these wrong, do I lose my place on the podcast?
Yeah, you're out, mate.
I mean, bear in mind, Greg's not here today. You're going to be quite lonely.
Yeah,
I'm in.
okay.
Okay.
You're in? I have got some questions for you, but if you've got any of your own...
I mean, I'm probably going to ask you the same questions I asked you then.
Well, let's see if you do. Let's see if you don't use your quiz. Use Jenson's.
Okay.
I'm intrigued to see what Jenson will ask. And I'm always get nervous about this sort of thing because my mind goes blank. But go on.
What was the... I mean, this one's an easy one, but what was the car number name in my first year in Williams? It's the FW47 now. Don't try and work back.
Well, no, I was going to say Williams always start with FW for Frank Williams. So 25 years ago, 47, 37, 20, the FW25. 20.
Well, maths isn't your strong point.
No,
so
23. Oh, God. 47 now. FW23.
Is that right?
It's not. That's not 25 years ago, is it?
Think 20...
So FW47 now,
What's
37, 27, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, FW22.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
I wasn't expecting you to actually having to add backwards. I thought you would just know.
I'm really bad at maths. I'm really bad at maths.
Yeah,
I'm
sorry for bringing that up on the show.
Right, out you get. You lost your seat.
I'm done.
That is awesome.
Well, no, I knew the FW bit, and I thought I was going to impress him when we're going, well, Williams always have FW
That
for
was
Frank
good,
Williams.
yeah.
But then you said that before, so maths is not my strong point.
Where did I finish in my first Grand Prix?
Oh, God, I got asked this the other week. Now, it was outside the points, and it was... Oh, God, this came up in something else I was doing the other week.
This is amazing. Shall I just let you know I didn't
Spoiling.
finish?
I was just about to say, I don't think you finished.
I seized at turn 3, but while in 6th place in the race.
And that's why I said it wasn't in the points, because I remember at one point it was like, oh, my God, there's going to be points on debut.
Yeah.
And, And now first one I didn't know. Like, hold my hands up. That one I did know that one.
Good.
Thank you for helping me out as well.
That's good. It's good. We're all a team here, right?
Yeah.
I put you down enough so far, so yeah. But no, it's nice that you're still going.
He's still going strong, and he will
loving your
still
sport.
be going in 40 odd years' time, Jenson.
Yeah. So how do you feel about this driver lineup? I know we've just talked about it, but what do you think about Carlos coming to the team?
Oh, it's so exciting. It's so exciting. Go on.
Well, I was just going to say, everybody internally, right, speaks about wanting Williams to do well in the future, like being independent for a minute, not just because I'm at a Williams event. They are the team that out of the back of the field, I think have the chance of breaking free, because I think Mercedes engines going into the new regulations is going to be worth having. Everybody says that Mercedes are looking good. It's going to be a lot more engine dependent next year. We'll talk about engines more next year than we do this year. Big title sponsors going in, big money injection, a phenomenal driver lineup, drivers that are locked down.
Yep, exactly.
Let's move away from Williams. Let's pretend you're on Sky. Do you think Williams out of the sort of back five teams are one of the ones that are likely to break out of that?
I think from a fan's point of view, it's the team that everyone wants to see succeed.
Yeah.
And it's because even though it's not a family-run business anymore, it still feels that way. And there's a lot of love for this team. One, because of the history they've had, but also the way that they go racing. This is such a passionate team. You know, all the people that you see in the garage who've worked, round the clock for days to get this car built. And all the people back at base, they have a job. Yes, they're paid to work, but they love their job. You know, they're here because they're passionate about motor racing. They want to fight those top teams at the front of the grid. And
you can tell when you're in it, the energy, the atmosphere, it's good.
Yeah,
it's nice.
And I think 3 years ago, it was a very different energy because they didn't really know where this team was going in terms of direction. Yeah, they were hoping they would get back to the front, but I think with the leadership of James Vowles, it's had a big effect on this team. And they have a real understanding of where they are and their goals. It's very straightforward. It's very open, which is the most important thing. And the team are always James speaks to the team regularly about, the positives, the negatives, where they are, where they want to go. And I think that's really key. That's what I love about James Vowles the most, is how he keeps everyone in this team involved with the decisions that are being made and also where the team is.
He addresses things head on as well, doesn't he? It's like with driver changes last year, he spoke really openly, maturely and professionally about the driver changes. I also admire that he's not been afraid to be shamelessly long-term when he came in. It's sort of like, look, we're not going to... I'm not promising I'm going to get the team on the podium next year. We're going to look at this long-term. That takes some bravery as a team principal, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, you never want to put a target for a season because everyone holds you to that, right? So I understand it from that point of view, but no, he's taken it to the extreme of, this is a long-term thing. But we still want to be successful every year in the sport. And I think because... the sponsors and partners really trust in him. That's why they're jumping on board and thinking, you know what, I want to be along for the ride.
And his social media posts as well go down very well. What do you think of them? The way he addresses everybody.
Yeah, I think it's good that he speaks to the fans and he says it in a way that it's easy to understand. Yeah. He's a very intelligent individual and could do it in a very engineering sort of way, but he makes sure that we all understand, which is nice.
It's very considerate of him, isn't it?
Yes, very
inclusive.
Considerate. Yes, exactly.
More broadly speaking, we're going to see you back on Sky Sports this year, right?
Yes.
We love seeing you on Sky, love getting your views. That's always good fun. And as someone that, as you said, covers the sport widely now as a pundit on Sky, are you as excited as we are about the 2025 season? Because it feels to me so open. Like, I can't remember... Like, all right, we think McLaren will be up there. We don't fully know where Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull are. This feels pretty exciting to me.
It is exciting. I don't think you're going to see massive changes in positions. I at the end of last year, sort of 3 races before the end of the season, I was like, Red Bull's not going to be anywhere in 2025. And then Max went and won.
Yeah.
It was like, 2 races. Like, oh, okay. Well, then maybe they are there or thereabouts. So I think it's going to be a big fight at the front. I think what's really interesting from a driver's point of view is that we have only 2 teams that have the same driver lineup.
Yeah, big
out of 10 teams. I mean, that's crazy. That doesn't happen very often.
How difficult is it changing the driver's lineup, and how easy is it to adapt as a driver when you've got a new teammate?
Yeah, I mean, for a driver like Carlos coming into Williams, it means you're working really hard over that winter. When all the other drivers are going and having a rest, he's not. But to be fair, a lot of them are in that situation. So he's spent a lot of time at base. Doing simulations, really understanding the car. A lot of the F1 cars have very similar switches and what have you, and what they can change as a driver, the differential and all the different switches on the steering wheel. But it's all labeled differently and they're all in different places. So it's understanding that so that you can immediately change something in the car. If you feel there's an issue at turn 1, you're ready for turn 2 with a switch change. You can't be thinking about where that button is on the steering wheel or how you adjust it. So there's all those systems that they need to run through, and also working with a new engineer. There's a different language sometimes when you're speaking to a different. I don't mean in terms of a different language, but the engineering language can be a little bit different for a driver.
And their style of communicating.
Exactly, and that connection between an engineer and driver is fundamental to maximizing the car. So he's got to get used to working with Gaetan, who I've worked with. He's a great guy, very to the point, hard worker. So I think Carlos is really happy with his engineer. And that's going to make sure that he's ready for race one, because shakedown today, 20 laps as a driver? Yeah. And then they go into 1.5 days of testing. 1.5 days before they get in the car for the race.
Not a lot, is it?
That's crazy
it's
when
not
you think
a lot.
about it. Yeah.
Jenson Button, this has been a pleasure. We know how busy and in demand you are. We really appreciate you taking the time to come back on the podcast. You're now a Fast and Curious proper regular, so we really appreciate it. It's really good of you, and we hope you enjoy your season.
We're about to get Carlos in and talk to him. Is there a question that you think we should ask him?
I think you guys know what you're doing.
Fair enough.
You're really good.
Well, that's nice.
And I'm going to save my good questions for when I ask him.
Damn it.
Jenson, thank you.
Cheers,
Jenson,
guys.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've spoken to Alex Albon. We've spoken to Jenson Button. We've had lunch. I've had a heart-shaped cookie. It is all going really well for us today. But shall I tell you what's going to make it even better?
What's going to make it even better?
Speaking to Carlos for the first time on this podcast.
We've said this a couple of times on the last couple of episodes, but it's genuinely true that of all the drivers that you guys have DM'd us saying, can you get this particular driver on, Carlos has been the most requested, comfortably.
And I can see why.
Oh, we can all see why. And also, we're recording this on Valentine's Day. So let me ask a question I never thought I'd be able to ask in my life. Shall we go spend Valentine's Day with Carlos Sainz?
Oh, it would be my pleasure.
Carlos Sainz, welcome to the Fast and the Curious. We've waited a long time to say that.
Thank you very much. All good? Everything okay?
It's lovely to have you with us. So this is the third season of this podcast.
Okay.
We've spoke to most drivers on the grid on the podcast. Our listeners are very vocal. They really let us know what they want.
Okay.
And I'm not just saying this because you're here. Am I? You'll back me up
I'll
here.
back you up.
You are comfortably the most requested driver that we've not yet had on in our DMs on social media.
Okay.
We asked Ferrari, they ignored us completely, but we love
Did
Williams.
they?
Yeah.
Ferrari have blanked us, Carlos.
Can you believe it?
For
That's
2 years.
that's because it never caught to me. If it would have caught to me,
You'd have said
I
yes.
would have given you a free pass.
Well, the thing is, we put a word in with Williams and we were like, look, we really just want to get Carlos on the pod. And they were like, great, well, we'll sign him. And, oh, my God.
We are doing the interview in the back of a truck, and I'm not sure the truck is
It's moving. Do they know we're in here? We've got a driver with us.
Do they know they can't take Carlos away in the truck? Carlos, have you ever had
I
this
need to
before?
catch a plane. I'm sorry, but anyway, let's continue like that didn't happen, okay?
We'll carry on. So yes, Carlos, we were saying we're so pleased to have you here. We're excited for the new season. How excited are you to be with the new team?
Yeah, very excited. Thank you. Well, first of all, the important thing is that I'm here now, no, and that's what matters, and I can finally be part of the Fast and the Curious, no?
Yeah.
I call it Fast and Curious. I don't know.
So
Yeah, that's right.
You're fast, we're curious.
Perfect. And true, good. I didn't thought about it that way. But yeah, I'm very excited. Honestly, it's been a long, short winter, but it feels long because you always miss racing. At the same time, it's been super busy. Whenever you change teams, that winter always becomes extremely busy because there's extra work, extra seats, extra meetings, extra simulator, extra everything. So I've been very busy this winter, but at the same time, I felt like I got my rest, I got my training, and I'm trying to balance all those things out.
What is it like moving teams? Because you've done it quite a few times, haven't you? It must be a lot. It must be a lot mentally, trying to meet loads of new people, learning everyone's names, getting used to a new sort of environment.
Yeah. I think you're completely right. It's more mental than anything. It's just a lot to go through in your head. You're having to constantly learn names, learn systems, learn ways of working methods. So you're constantly learning something new every day. So mentally, in the end, it is draining. Also, the simulator sessions become more draining because you're like having to learn things of the steering, of the setup of the car that you didn't know before. You're trying also to get to learn to meet your engineers that you're going to work this year. So you're starting to work with them. The way they say things, the kind of words they use might be different to yours. incredibly complex, but as you said, I've done this 5 times now. I've changed team 5 times, so I can officially say I've been in 50% of the teams of the grid now, and,
I mean,
and I have some experience.
Yeah, it's not bad, is it?
And we were sat at the back of this truck, this moving truck, when you were talking to us, doing a sort of press conference before, and you were asked about Lewis going to Ferrari and that sort of thing, and it dawned on me that, like, if you don't mind me saying, your reaction to all of that has been so classy. The way you speak so, like, well and charmingly about Lewis being at Ferrari and about your move, it's amazing. Like, it's genuinely amazing. You've been really classy with how you've handled that situation. Has it ever been harder than you've let on?
Thank you. I think people, journalism maybe tries always to create a story and dramatize things. No, obviously you need to sell. In order to sell, you need to dramatize a bit what's happening. It was tough. So that I'm not gonna tell you, and I'm not gonna lie to you. It was a tough moment in my career, but it was tough. I think especially because it was unexpected. I think it would have been expected. It wouldn't have been tough. It would have been actually something relatively easy to get on with. No, the fact that a 7-time world champion was taking your seat at Ferrari, you could argue it at some point it could perfectly happen. No, but the fact that it was so unexpected that it was not. I wouldn't say hidden from me, but it didn't until the day before that or the week before that. I didn't know. I was 99% sure I would continue in Ferrari. That's what made it. That's what made it tough. But once I thought about it, I digested it. I got on with it pretty quickly, and I just got on with my life. And look, here I am in Williams. I did the second most successful team in Formula One. If you would have asked me when I was 10 years old and I fell in love with the sport, which teams would you have dreamed being part of? I would have said Williams, Ferrari, and McLaren. So I can proudly say, I can proudly say in my career I've already at 30 years old been to these teams, and I cannot complain at all.
What do you want to achieve at Williams? What do you think can be possible? Not just this season, but also in the future, 2026 and onwards.
Well, in the long term, I want to win. I'm coming to Williams to try and help the process of recovery to the top of the field as short as possible, and I believe I can help on that. The challenge motivates me, and probably we're looking more into 2027, 2028 if you ask me, but that doesn't mean that 2025 is not important in order to achieve that. Everything starts here. The team has already been working 2 or 3 years on that goal, so we are on that process. The team and the state of the team reminds me a lot of my years in McLaren, 2019, 2020, when then McLaren went on last year to win the Constructors' Championship. So I don't know. I feel like I'm ready for the challenge. For sure, it's going to be a step back compared to last year. But at the same time, if one day I can get in a podium with Williams or get in a win with Williams, that moment will be for sure the proudest moment. So that's what I have in my head and the only thing that I want to achieve.
Can I ask you a strange question? It dawns on me in Formula One that, like, you're really popular. I was at your first race win at Silverstone. It's such a popular race win. A couple of them last year as well. As I've said before, with how well you've handled the move to Williams, you've got heartthrob status. There's no question about that. Are you aware of all of this? Are you aware of how popular within the sport you are? Does that reach you as a driver?
It does through social media, of course, and obviously this podcast helps for you to let me know. No, obviously, we Formula One drivers, we live in our bit of our own world with, how focused we are, how much we're traveling. So you sometimes maybe you don't get to stop and realize these kind of things. But to be able to say, as you said, I'm very popular as a Formula One driver, that I've been to these teams, like I was telling before, sometimes I need to stop and remind myself these kind of things, to be able to enjoy the ride and to enjoy the life, because I'm so busy, I'm so competitive that sometimes I don't feel like give myself enough time to realize these kind of things. So sometimes it's good to stop, look around, see where you're at in your career and say, okay, I cannot complain, I'm doing pretty well. And I would like to thank everyone, obviously, for supporting me and giving me that love that you were talking about, because it's exactly like I feel it. I feel
that's great.
I feel when I genuinely won in Silverstone my first race, when I won Singapore, Australia after my appendicitis, when I won Mexico and people realized that could be my last win in like I felt the love of the fans, and that as a human being, forget the driver, the human being feels it, and it's nice.
Sorry, just it reminded me your Silverstone win of a Grand Prix I went to as a kid where Michael Schumacher won, and there was a real warmth from British fans to Michael. You felt really similar at Silverstone to me, of like you when normally a home crowd wants a home driver to win, and yet it was like a home driver had won. It was really lovely.
Weirdly, yes. I think a bit of that is thanks to my McLaren years. I think my 2 years in McLaren brought me a lot closer to the English crowd, and it was my home race as a McLaren driver, and now Silverstone will be again as a Williams driver one of my home races, no? And I've always felt that love with the British crowd, and I would like again to thank them, for always making me feel so welcome. I think also getting on well with Lando helps. I guess if you get on well with a British driver,
he's a regular on this podcast, you'll be glad to know.
He's very popular as you were saying. So I feel that.
Talking about your social media following and people loving you, another thing people talk about is the fact that you're often quite confused. Do you see that? Everyone goes on.
I didn't know,
yeah.
But I've become a moving meme that everyone likes to post a video of me.
Moving meme.
Always confused. And do you know what? You lived up to...
Like I'm in a press conference staring at nothing. Suddenly I'm asked a question and I'm like...
Carlos doing an impression of Carlos Cruz is my favourite thing.
Yeah, but I wasn't aware. Now people have made me aware. And now I'm like in a press conference thinking about my stuff, and I'm like, Carlos, you're doing exactly what everyone is thinking about. So I'm like, I've done it again, haven't I? And my girlfriend, my family, they all laugh at me now because there's so many memes about
so many memes. But the thing is, you lived up to it today, didn't you? Because you got lost on your way to Silverstone. For some reason, Silverstone decided to close the gate of the normal entrance exactly 5 minutes before I arrived, and they made me do a whole lap around the outskirts of the track, and I was like, I'm lost. And you were late?
Yeah, but I'm never late, and I was not going to be late. Like, forget all these Spanish people don't like waking up early, or sometimes a bit late. I'm a very punctual, very methodic, very committed guy, and I hate being late. And today, Silverstone, for some reason, decided to close that gate in my first day at work. So
live it.
Yeah.
Silverstone, can we, next time Carlos is here, please, can we make sure the gates are open for Carlos?
Thank you very
much. Yeah.
You know which gate it is.
Earlier on, we spoke to Jenson Button, and he used a brilliant term where he said that the Williams team had downloaded you, had plugged you in and were downloading your knowledge. Do you feel suitably downloaded by Williams?
I feel at the end of those days in the factory, I'm properly downloaded, but downloaded also in energy, because the other day my engineer, Gaeton, kept me in the simulator until 7 p.m. Normally, for your info, a simulator session can be from 9 to 1, 2 to 5, 2 to 6. I was in the factory from 8:30 in the morning till 7 p.m. testing things, asking things, meetings, doing a sit. And at the end of the day, I was like, Gaeton, mate, I cannot do a whole year like this. They were downloading me. But I enjoyed, you guys know I'm a hard worker. I like all that process. But if 24 races a full year, we need to, little by little, start coming.
You reach your download limit otherwise, won't you? And that'd be a problem.
I do have to ask, last question before we'll let you go. What is your favourite food? Because we spoke to Alex Albon earlier, and he said that you love caviar and sushi.
Because you were neighbours, and he saw your food delivery.
That is confused Carlos, by the way.
Yeah. Who doesn't like caviar and sushi? First of all, I think everyone kind of likes that. But if I would have to choose my favorite food, for sure, hamburgers.
Oh,
100%. I'm a crazy hamburger guy. Every city I go to, I watch in internet top 10 hamburgers in the city. Every year I try a different burger in every city I go to.
Which city does the best
normally I do
burger?
Wednesdays, so it gives me Thursday to lose the weight that I put on that day.
Hamburger Wednesdays.
Yeah.
Which city has the best burger?
I would say Austin does very good burgers. Melbourne does good burgers. Montreal does good burgers. No. So I would say those three. Okay. Save it.
Something about this seat at Williams, one of your predecessors, Logan Sargent, said exactly the same thing, and every time he came on this podcast spoke about his love of burgers. There's something about the Williams seat that you have to be a burger fan.
You have to be a burger boy. Also pizzas. Pizzas, especially my time in Italy, has given me a lot of understanding about the pizza world, and
Good
a good
pizzas.
Italian Napolitan pizza is something that I crave now and then. And yeah, a good piece of beef also. I don't know. I'm a foodie.
Yeah, you like food.
We are both big foodies on this
Good.
podcast. It's what fuels the Fast and the Curious. It really is.
Good.
That's why we're so slow. We're slow and the curious.
Yeah,
Because we eat too
because we
much.
eat too much. Yeah. Carlos, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. That is it for this episode of the Fast and the Curious. The next time me and Betty see you will be at the F1 75 event, and that will be the next time we see you, Carlos, at the O2 in London for the big launch. Are you
Perfect.
excited for that?
I'll see you there, and if you guys want me more than 10 minutes, I'm very open one day to sit down properly with you guys.
And we'll have some burgers, we'll have some food, and we'll have a nice chat.
As long as you ask me different questions to what the F1 media ask me,
we
always.
can
and
always
keep
do
it,
that.
Keep it different.
Yeah.
I'm ready to come back.
We'll keep you on your toes.
We
don't
can
you?
always promise
Okay.
that. So that's it, everyone. For all the DMs saying, will Carlos be back? Will Carlos be on? He's just said it. So yes, we will have Carlos back on anytime. It's been such a pleasure, Carlos. Thank you to Williams as well for having us here at Silverstone. Don't forget to check out our episode with McLaren 2 from the other day, and we'll be back at the O2, won't we?
We will. Thank you so much for listening, for watching, and subscribe to The Fast and the Curious. Goodbye.
Bye for now.